Hi, Jonathan. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm
Thank
doing
you.
I'm doing amazing. I'm happy for us to get to know each other this way.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so first of all, I mean, you caught my attention with the name of your business, Whitebeard.
Had no idea where I came up with that, by the way.
No idea. And for anyone that's listening, he doesn't have a white beard or anything like that. That's not
Yeah,
what we're getting at here at all.
yeah, if you're listening, you can't see the white beard that's taken me 7.5 years to grow. Yeah.
7.5. All right.
Yeah.
That's what prompted the beard? Did you have a beard prior? Were you like a stubble guy?
No, it was one of those November came around. I lived up in Michigan where it was cold and a bunch of my buddies were growing beards because it was hunting season. I wasn't going hunting, but I thought, let's grow a beard, let's have fun.
Yeah.
And then I liked it and I kept it. And they all shaved their beards and mine I didn't. And I'm like, I think I'm gonna keep it. And
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
And now my granddaughter loves it, and so she's 7, and there's no way I'm
Oh,
getting rid of it because
right.
she loves Grandpa's beard, and so that's good
Yeah.
enough reason to keep it.
Totally. I mean, they're same age. The beard is as old as your
Exactly.
grandpa.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. She's literally she's like 2 months older than the beard. So
Okay. So- And you got to create a whole brand around it.
yeah, that was unexpected, but it was a bonus and we've had a great time with it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, so tell me a little bit more about what it is that you do. What is White Beard Strategies when somebody hears that?
Great. Yeah, so we help people, businesses and their teams, and I want to stress both. It's not just businesses, it's their teams as well. We help them leverage AI to save time, to make more money, and to deliver more value to their clients. I fell in love with AI and the just incredible efficiencies I was able to get out of it. And while I was doing that, I saw people on my team getting nervous. They're like, "Uh-oh, we might lose our job." And I'm like, "No, no, nobody's going to lose their job. At least on my team, not
Hmm.
everybody's."
Yeah.
But we're growing. So now we may have hired fewer people, but we didn't get rid of anybody because of it. And I just saw the tremendous power to amplify skill and experience. And we all have that. And I believe that AI is not going anywhere. It's not a fad. It's not a trend. It's here.
I'm
This
with
is,
you.
you know, it's like this is like when once we got the printing press, we never went back to scribes. Once we got the internal combustion engine, and we pretty much liked our automobiles and we kept with them. And I
Oh,
think that AI is going to be the same way. So it's important, I believe, for us as leaders to embrace that and to say, okay, we're going to demonstrate to our employees, our teams, our community, then how to use this responsibly. Because I think that's the next step at that point is how do we make sure we use this amazing technology in a responsible manner?
definitely. And I think we're really seeing that now. And ethics has always been on my mind since day one. Like you, when I first started exploring AI, I was excited. I was like, look at the potential, look at the possibility, look at how this is making my life easier, cutting back on certain things so I can go out and actually do the things I love as opposed to being stuck
Yes.
behind the computer. That was like my first like love at first sight moment with it all. And of course, in the back of my mind, as I do, I was thinking about the ethics, thinking about the responsibility of it, things of that nature. And we're starting to see now that we're a few more years into it all, people are using it more, but I feel like it's starting to get a little sloppy, a little scrappy, and I am wondering the responsibility piece. What's your current take on that with how it's being utilized?
I think like anything else, when people start using something, they're probably using it as a shortcut. They're like, how can I use it as a shortcut? We're not initially just thinking about how amazing this is going to be.
Yeah.
And like it or not, a relatively small percentage of the world population is actually really using AI today. There's a lot of people that are dabbling with it, but very few people are actually using it. And so I think we're going to continue to see a ramp up of, garbage content being created by AI and deep fakes and things like that that are just in my mind wrong. They shouldn't be done. But we're going to see that because people, unfortunately, some people have bad ideas and some of those are going to try it out. It's going to be a fad. It's largely going to go away. I'm a marketer, so on the content side, yes, we're going to have a flood of bad content, but you know what? We have more content than we can deal with right now anyway, and we ignore the stuff that's junk. So we'll just ignore the new stuff. not a big, it's bits and bytes. It's not like we're not storing this in a warehouse somewhere we've got to worry about, so
Right.
I don't see that as being an issue.
Yeah.
But I do think that as we look at things as adoption of AI continues, I think that we're going to run into more and more of these issues because, people are going to say, well, it'd be really fun to take and put my face on somebody else's body and make it look like Jonathan said something because maybe I ticked somebody off. Didn't mean to, but maybe I did. And they're like, I'm going to get Jonathan. We're going to, and that's one of the reasons I won't get rid of the beard because it's a lot harder to deep fake a beard, I've learned.
Yeah.
It definitely is harder to make that real. A lot of the AI, video tools, they work great if you don't have a beard. They don't
Okay.
work if you've got a beard. So,
Interesting. All
um,
right. That doesn't favor for me very well then. But hey,
well, the long hair is going to be helpful to you though, because
yes.
that again, it does really good on the face
Hmm.
and maybe an inch or so away from the face. But
Yeah.
once you get beyond this, you've got beautiful long hair, you can have that same benefit and
Okay.
get some of that coming through.
Okay,
But
perfect.
again, yeah, there's things like that that are going to happen. And you mentioned ethics.
Yeah.
I tend to rile some feathers because I always say there is no such thing as AI ethics. And people are like, what do you mean? And I'm like, there's business ethics and there's ethics, and they apply to AI.
Mm,
But I mean, for example, before AI, it would have been much harder for me to make a deep fake of you or anybody else doing anything different. It'd be very difficult to do.
sure.
But I've been a photographer for many years, and you know what? It was really easy to change in Photoshop to make something appear different. The video part was hard, the voice part was hard.
Right.
AI has just given us more tools to do that, and it's made it easier. It still would be wrong of me to do that, whether I was using Photoshop to create an image that depicted something untrue or
Sure.
not. It's still wrong. So to me, while AI opens up some new doors, maybe from Pandora's box, the ethics question still is largely the same. And that's like, should we portray something that's not true? Should we portray something that might be perceived as harmful? Should we, certainly, I grew up as a child that was bullied. The last thing I want to see anybody do is use AI to create deep fakes to bully anybody in life, child, teen, adult, doesn't matter. But the reality is, there's some people that have warped perspectives out there and warped minds and will do that, just like there's bullies in school. And so I think it's our responsibility then as leaders to step up and say, okay, here's how we use this respectfully. Here's how we use this in a positive way to add value versus taking away value. And at the end of the day, I generally believe that we as the human race are pretty good people and
Yeah.
that most people are good souls. And there's exceptions, but
Of
I
course.
believe it. I believe that for the most part, we've done a pretty good job for the last few millennia figuring it out. I think we'll probably figure this one out too.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, like, clearly, big takeaways. Spam will be spam, whether it's AI
Yes,
conducted or not,
exactly.
right? We still have that natural filter. So there is looking at it that way. And then same with, I love how you said it's not AI ethics. It's just ethics, period. And AI
To
happens
me,
to be a tool that then can be applied to make something unethical. But
correct.
it's
Yes.
yeah. So I like that clarification. I've never heard it in that way before. And I also agree with you, just like, we keep evolving with technology, humanity will just keep being humanity. And there's always going to be the bad
Yeah.
eggs, and there's always going to be the people that are going to try to make bad on a good situation or try to scam,
Hmm.
try to, that's just part of it. And it just might, I think what it is I think it feels more in our face than it ever
Yeah. Oh,
has.
and I think there it is because again, media is so much more prevalent. I mean, you're much younger than I am, but I can think back to when I grew up and if it didn't come across the TV news at 6 or at 11, you
Yeah.
didn't know about it because it just didn't happen. Well, now we've got not only do we have 24-hour news, but now we have our phones in our hand. I'm looking for mine right now, going, where did it go? This is direct information to anything we could imagine
Hmm.
24/7, 365 days a year, more information than we can intake. So I think not that it's worse. I'm not one of those people who thinks it's any worse now than it was, but I think it's more accessible.
Hmm.
And therefore I think it's more visible and it's maybe harder to step away from it, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I think that's something that we'll also be navigating down the road because there is going to be
Yeah.
codependency and addiction. I mean,
Yep.
there already is, but I don't think we're taking it as seriously as maybe, someone has an addiction in a different form or
Correct. I agree
like,
with you.
but I do think down the road we're going to have a hard look at what is our relationship with our phone, with our technology, with our dependency to pick it up every few minutes, or that feeling of, oh, I just need to check my email real quick. And then the next thing you know, you're scrolling on TikTok and you're like, wait, I was just supposed to check that email.
That's not just me. Okay, I'm glad that's not just me. Yeah.
All right, maybe it's just you and me, but you know,
Okay, fair enough.
it's how do we work around those loops, right? And is it a matter of self-discipline? Is it a matter of regulation? You know, and I do think it's going to just be a growing concern that I would love to see us try to regulate or at least have a better dynamic with. Or maybe that just comes down to also the self and your own discipline, just like how you make a choice. You want to lose weight, so you start going to the gym and you make that active
Right.
choice, right? Every morning I'm going to get up and I'm going to go work out, or every, night before I go to bed, I'm going to sit with my book instead of sitting with my phone, or, so I don't know. I think it's going to be a little bit of a collective response, but then also that individual
I
responsibility.
I agree, and I think, like everything else, it's that those choices are going to evolve and they're going to change. I mean, I'll readily admit I have not watched news on TV in probably 6 years.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be happier because of it. Now, I have friends that think I'm absolutely ludicrous and crazy about how do I get through a day without knowing what's going on. And I'm like, it's so easy because I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I don't
You
have
know,
anything programmed that way. Hmm.
yeah, and again, that's just it's a choice I make. It's not applies to everybody, but it's a choice that works for me. And I think we're going to continue to see people evaluating, making choices, and it's ultimately why I believe that all the spam that we talk about in particular, which is one of those big things people worry about with I think that it's all going to work out because we ignore spam now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at our email boxes. We're pretty good at ignoring that. And
Mhm.
I think we're going to get really good at ignoring other forms
Yeah.
because the content that's good, the stories that are good, the stories that are helpful, those are still going to rise to the top and they're going to get the eyeballs at that point.
I think so, definitely. And there might be more detectors too, even like when you get a phone call now, it'll say spam likely.
Yeah. Oh,
That,
I love that. I don't even answer the phone.
oh, the
Suspected
best.
spam. Well, there's no way I'm answering that call.
Yeah, yeah. The only reason I get annoyed is when it's interrupting me doing something. I'm like, excuse me.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I
I was
feel that.
recording a
Yes.
voice note and got interrupted by spam. What does that mean? But yeah, so I do think there will be more detectors and things of that nature. And overall, what I appreciate about you and why I wanted to have you on the show, because I am an advocate for AI and I do see it as a positive thing. And I think it's important to not be delusional about it, but to have that
Yes.
perspective of this can actually be a really great thing.
Well, and I think that's it. We've got to decide what we want to do. It's no different than I should probably switch hats, but I'm a hat guy, so I'll
Okay,
switch hats only because it fits the
nice.
story.
Okay.
But
What
so
does the hat
this hat,
say?
this hat? You can see on there. It says the future
It's,
is bright.
we love that.
It's one of
Yes.
my favorite hats. It's a saying that I borrowed from somebody. I don't even remember who, but I loved it when I saw it because I believe so much of our life is based on how we choose to live it. In other words, I can choose to look at the day and go, today is going to be a crummy day. It's cloudy outside. I can't see the sun. It was raining earlier. Or I can go, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm in my office today. I'm talking to people all over the world via Zoom. We're having a great day. And it's not a tornado. It's not a hurricane. I live in Alabama by the Gulf. There's no hurricanes today. It's a good day.
Yeah.
And I think AI really fits into that same mode in that we can choose to be scared of it and be scared of what it could become, what it could happen, or we can embrace it for what it is today and we can try to have influence to make sure that those more negative consequences don't happen. It's like being involved in a community. If the community stands up, crime doesn't tend to stay in a community because the community drives it out. But if the community stays in their houses and never does anything, then crime tends to come in because nobody's stopping it. And I think AI is going to be that same way.
I agree with you. Most of the individuals that listen to the show, they are definitely AI curious. They can feel that it has benefit, they have value, it has value.
Hmm.
They've dabbled in it. But then I think people they don't know what to do from like they're like, okay, I downloaded ChatGPT or I'm kind of using it, but like where do I go from
Yeah,
here?
but now what, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of now what. So what would you say to the now what people?
I think it's like training us to do something different that we've never done before.
Hmm.
Um, one thing a day, slowly find something. And what I recommend to people, find something that you have to do on a regular basis. Maybe it's daily, maybe it's weekly, that you go, it's not a terrible job, but I don't really like doing this, but I've got to do it. So as a business owner and entrepreneur that I am, one of those things is responding to certain client emails. And it could be client emails, vendor emails. There's just things that come up and it's like, what am I going to do? And before AI, I'll admit a lot of times I put those off and that wasn't good because I would delay answering those because I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
And if I didn't know what to say, it's like I'll get to it a little bit later. I'll respond to Danielle in a few hours, and that few hours might turn into a few days, and then that exacerbated the problem. Well, now I can go look. I got this email from Danielle. I I need to draw a couple boundaries because there's been some misunderstandings. I need to lay some things out, but I also need to let her know that we're going to take care of this and resolve this. And ChatGPT, I can literally just share your email, share what I want to say, and it will write an incredible email that probably will take me 30 seconds to edit, and I'll probably have to change like 3 or 4 words total.
Yep.
And it will be better written than what I could have done without it. It'll be done faster. And again, as a business person, even better. Likely when I send that to you, Danielle, you're going to be receive it better because of the way it was written. And so across the board, everybody wins.
Yeah. No,
There's a lot more, but that's something I think
that's
find something that you struggle with and let AI help you.
yeah, I like that. And I like just pick one thing. What is one
Yeah,
thing that you find that is a problem or you're stalling, that you're procrastinating around? What is just one
exactly.
thing that seems to be the biggest one? And then how can you find that AI solution for that?
Yes.
And
Yep.
yeah, email, I think emails is a big one. And I think it's good too, even for business owners, but also like people pleasers, right? Like if you're kind of in a space where you don't know how to respond because you're afraid you might be putting up a boundary or it might not come across as nice. Well, great, you know, give those instructions to ChatGPT. I want to stay firm on my boundaries, but still feel kind. How can I do this in a way that,
Exactly. Yeah.
moves it forward where you might not be able to do that on your own?
Maybe it's just planning for a difficult conversation. Sometimes we've got to have a difficult conversation with somebody at work or a family member or whatever. And the ability, instead of, oh my goodness, how do I do it and avoiding it? I can literally pre-plan that conversation with ChatGPT and say, I need to have a tough discussion, and here's what I need to say, but I want to be respectful and I want to make sure I don't break down that friendship or that family relationship or that work relationship. And it can help guide you through that and give you words to do that. Again, and I found those things to be really helpful.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's helped me. I mean, conversations with relationships for sure, even, breakups, right? Like just certain things
Oh,
where
yeah.
like I don't know how to do this or I don't want to stumble or I would love to role play and rehearse. It's
Mm,
becoming, just it was interesting because I started using it at first for business and then I started to notice like, wait a minute, this could probably help me with this current situation I'm going with personally right now. And
absolutely.
and the more it gets to, and one thing too, why consistency is important because the more you use it, the more it gets to know you, and then you're going to find your
Exactly.
results are going to be more
Yeah.
refined and more feel like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I use it for a lot, I'm an ADD entrepreneur, so I'm
Yeah.
bad at details. I know how important they are, but I'm not good at them. But I know that I need to write standard operating procedures to help my team do a better job. The problem is they're all stuck up here,
Mhm.
and I don't generally know how to get them into words effectively. I can talk well, but I don't always write well. And with ChatGPT and other tools like it, we could talk Claude, Gemini, doesn't really matter. I can go to them and say, hey, I need to create a step-by-step SOP that's going to achieve the following for my team to use. It's in my brain. Will you ask me questions to
Mm.
pull that information out and then create the SOP? And you know what? AI will do that.
Yep.
It'll literally ask me a series of questions until it's gathered enough information. As long as I can take the time to answer questions, which I'm good at that part,
Yes.
now I can have an SOP
Mhm.
that not only helps my team and helps assure we take care of our clients better, but and this is the huge benefit I've learned in the last few years. It helps my team because they're now more confident and assured in what they're doing. They're enjoying their job more. They're having more value. They're getting more value out of what they're doing. So it's not just good for me, it's actually really good for them. And
Mhm.
oftentimes I go, I don't need the SOP. Well, I probably do, but they do need the SOP. And it's my job as a leader to be able to take care of those needs for them in a way that's respectful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great way to go about it. And once again, shows like this is AI helping other humans, not taking
Hmm.
away things from humans, which is a narrative we have a lot.
Oh,
One way,
yes.
yeah, one way I like to use it too, to your point, what you're saying, I love the talk feature. So if anyone doesn't know, most of these LLMs, they have the ability to hit the microphone and you can talk. I'm a big storyteller. And sometimes I have trouble translating it into an email, translating it into an Instagram caption. So I just say, I'm going to just tell you my story. I'm just going to dump it in here.
Yep.
I might talk for 5 minutes. And after this 5 minute story, let's turn it into an email. Let's turn it into, what, and it's still me. It's my story. It's just
Oh, absolutely.
crafted in a way that makes sense to text in a way that would have taken me a couple hours as opposed to 20 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I had that happen this morning. I'm speaking at an event and
Mhm.
it's coming up in a few months. We have a bio that we send across and all that. And they said, This is a professional. Do you have a personal bio?" And I'm like, I got to be honest, I've never been asked for a personal bio. And so we reached out and my assistant said, "Well, what do you mean?" And they're like, "Well, we just want to introduce Jonathan to the audience. We want to let him know." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Now I'm like, "Oh, Drud, I
Right.
got to write this. I don't want to do it." And so my ops director and I, we meet every morning for about 30 minutes and go over stuff because she knows I'm ADD and she helps me walk through it. And she goes,
Mhm.
"Okay, you're going to need to write that. I'll add that to your task list." And I go, "No, no, let's just do it right now." And I literally opened up ChatGPT and I just said, "I'm speaking at an event in November. We've sent them my professional bio. They want a personal bio for the goal of introducing me and some of the things that are personal about me. So I want to talk about the fact that I love photography, but I don't use my cameras anymore because I have this thing called an iPhone that's always with me.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the fact that I love motorcycles and I have one, but I also grew up riding dirt bikes and I just recently got quads and I have a lot of fun on those as well. I'm a dad, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, and blah, blah, blah." And I just kind of literally talked to it just like that. And then said, "Okay, now write me the personal bio." It wrote one paragraph, was perfect. I had it change one word because I didn't like the word that it had used. It said when not scheming on the latest ideas or something. I'm like, I don't like scheming, change that.
Yeah.
And it did.
Hmm.
That was I had to change that one word. And we were done in 3 minutes with something that I can
Felt like
promise you
you.
Romay, my ops director, would have spent 30 minutes just reminding me to do it time and time and time because it would have fallen into Jonathan not now time, meaning it's November. I don't need to do that now. I'll deal with that later.
Yeah.
And so she'd remind me probably for the next 45 days to do it. And then she'd probably write it herself because she'd be, no, I wasn't going to get
True.
around to it. And then, so she would have spent hours and I would have spent more than 3 minutes. We both spent 3 minutes, 6 minutes, we're done. It's emailed, it's taken care of. That to me is just how effective AI can be.
Yeah, definitely. And it has a ripple effect. It has a ripple effect on your stress levels, right? You're not in the back of your mind stressing about it, right? For many
Yeah.
of us ADDers, we do procrastinate and sometimes it's with purpose. And
Oh, yeah.
there are many moments where I wasn't procrastinating, I was right on time, right? In my mind, but it
Amen.
is
I love that.
still,
Yes.
yeah, I was right on time. Truly. But it's still something that's running in a loop in your brain, and it's still
Yeah.
something you're thinking about, and it does start to feel like avoidance. It does start to feel like pressure. So what we're doing is we're eliminating that, which is a stressor in our life, which then increases our ability to actually feel happier and more joyous. And like I was saying earlier, it also crunches down our time, and it gives us our time back. It gives us quality of life back, which is the
Yes.
biggest gift, I think.
100%. Yeah, and it's that ability to have more options in life, whether you and myself, I want to go and ride my motorcycle a little bit more, or if I want to go hang out with my son more or my wife, I have the option because it creates flexibility that I didn't have before. And I love the way you describe it, Danielle. It removes some of that drama from my life and that stress because I know I need to write that personal bio and it's in the back of my head, even though it's not now. It comes up sometimes, unfortunately, at 4 in the morning when I wake up and I'm like, oh no, it's not due yet. Now it's gone. It won't happen. And I don't have to worry about that. That makes my life better.
Definitely, definitely for sure. So we can see all the benefits, and we talked a lot about like the LLMs, like ChatGPT,
Yep.
Claude, et cetera. What other tools do you tend to work with, or are you finding that businesses are valuing most right now?
I think, we see a lot of AI note takers, and I'm a huge fan of those, and I think they can do a great job, but I don't think most people use them very effectively.
Yeah.
I think they basically go, okay, it's there, and if I need the file, I'll go back and I'll look at it someday. What I love about it is that we take those files in our team, and then we literally have an AI prompt that we go through with them that identifies. So for my meetings, it will go through and say, all right, you met with Danielle. What did you promise Danielle that you were going to do? What did Danielle state that were her interests? It's already trained on my business. So it says, what are things that based on what Danielle shared and you talked about that you might want to present to Danielle to help sell her something? How could you add value into her life? And those are things that the AI is pulling out of that transcript. Well, now that's great because that means that the next morning after my meeting, instead of forgetting about it and just focusing on the day, it's like, all right, you met with Danielle yesterday, and here's three things you said you were going to do. All right, don't forget, they got to get on the task list or whatever. That's good because I'm ADD and I do forget things.
Hmm.
And it also gives me new opportunities because it's one of the things we do is not even about sales, but it's like, what one thing out of this conversation could we do to add value to Danielle that would be surprising and in a positive manner? And
Mm.
if it comes back with something, sometimes it's a matter of just sending an email because you made a comment about something or whatever. And I'm like, hey, Danielle, you mentioned this yesterday. I saw this. I wanted to share it with you. And the ability to build better rapport that way and to have better follow-up to me is huge. And it's using AI, but it's using AI in a way we didn't have 2 years ago at
Sure.
all because we didn't have those note takers and we didn't know what to do with that information. So that's just one example of many.
Yeah, that's a great one. I love using it, for anyone that has a podcast. It's such a disservice
Hmm.
not to use a note taker because now you literally have the entire conversation, which can be then turned
Exactly.
into podcast summary, I title ideas, right? Like give me a few ideas for a title. You can literally pull quotes from the
Hmm.
episode. You can ask it what in your mind do you think were the parts that were most exciting that my audience will resonate
Yeah.
with the most so I can pull and make into an audio clip to then put on social media. So you can get really crafty. And one of the things I'm noticing in the way that you're talking about the way that you prompt as well, it does seem like you're very creative and you're able to kind of go there. And I think that's also an area where people don't seem to get expansive enough with. Like I think they'll take,
Yeah.
any AI that they're using and they stick to basic questions and they don't go outside the box. So how would you encourage people to be more of an out of the box thinker when it comes to prompting?
First and foremost, don't overthink it.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't such a thing as a perfect prompt. It doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, I also think that following a framework is important, but you know what? I follow frameworks in how I communicate with my coworkers and all that. I just don't necessarily realize it because I've been trained on them over time. And that's a big part of it. Talk to it as you would a coworker. If you talk to AI in that same manner, it's not sentient, but it is a large language model and it's been trained in natural language processing. And if that means a couple key things, one, I need to provide it context, which so often we don't do with AI. We need to ask it what we want it to do. And then we need to do something that I know a lot of us do in person, but I don't ever hear people do with AI. And that's it. Danielle, if you and I are working on a project together and I say, hey, Danielle, I need you to help me do this. And you go, great, I'd be happy to. I often end with, do you have any questions?
Mm.
People do that. We don't ever ask AI. Well, I shouldn't say ever. I do, but not many do.
Yeah, I like to, but yeah.
Ask me any questions you have because AI is smart enough. It's been programmed. It's not smart. It's got enough
Yeah.
knowledge that it can go, well, you asked me to write a press release, and I know in order to write a press release, I need these three bits of information that you didn't give me. If I don't say, ask me clarifying questions, it's likely just to fill in the blanks or put
Right.
variables in,
Yeah.
and that's not very helpful. But if I say, ask me any questions you have, now it'll go and say, well, Jonathan, you forgot to tell us who was the desired audience.
Mm.
Oh, oops, I know better than that. And now I can answer that. And now guess what? The response that I get is going to be so much better. So my big advice is again, just you were just talking about, but treat it and talk to it much as we would a coworker
Yeah.
and make sure it's a conversation. It shouldn't be a slot machine that we go up and we want to ask one question and we hope and pray we get the perfect response.
Yeah.
No, it's Danielle, here's what I want. You ask me a question, I clarify, and maybe you show me something. And I'm like, oh, I didn't explain that right because and continue that. Do the same with AI. Oh, you know what? I forgot to tell you this because I just remembered. No, then tell it that. And it could be the third part or fourth part of your conversation. It's smart enough to go back and incorporate that and bring that together. And again, the quality of the responses that you get out of AI will go up so dramatically
Yeah.
that you'll be like, this is just, now I don't know what I did without it. And I
Uh,
literally don't.
I
A lot less is what I did without it. I did a lot less.
I did a lot less as well. And yeah, that world feels like it's being erased from my memory, the pre-AI world.
I'm
That
happy for
yeah,
that.
that's a science fiction movie right there. AI erased my life before it. But I like exactly what you're saying. It's like have a conversation with it, relate to it. Don't be afraid to also again because it doesn't have feelings. You can say
Right.
you did this wrong, or you can get like sometimes too every now and then like it's good to get a little angry. Like I'll get a little mad.
Hmm.
I'd rather get a little mad at my AI than at an actual human, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
No, I
so
mean,
we do
sometimes I'll
that.
go, you're not listening, and I'll put exclamation points after it. And of course, it's not listening, but it makes me feel better to say that. And a lot of times it will then read that and it will reevaluate and go, oh, did you mean this? Yes, that's what I meant. Now, it
Exactly.
may have been my fault from the beginning. It didn't really matter because guess what? AI is not going to remember in my next chat that I lost my temper. It's not going to care.
No.
It's not going to call in late. It's not going to take too long a lunch. It's not going to have a bad day because they had a relationship issue at home. None of that's going to happen,
Right.
and that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's not going to profile you. So,
Yeah.
go at it in whatever way you need to in that moment. I prefer to have a more pleasant exchange with my AI just because it feels
As
good.
do I.
But yeah, there are definitely days where I am just like, you are not with me. I remember
Mhm.
I was like, I don't even know who you are. I don't even know.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you don't even know me.
There are moments that it feels like that. And, that's where it feels kind of like a relationship where just once in a while you're on a different wavelength. And, but again, the good news is that AI will never bring that up to you and go, Danielle, you remember the other day when it'll never do that. And that's a good thing.
I think so too. I think it's at least as it stands right now, it's a great tool to meet you where you're at. So
Yes.
where do you see AI going, let's say even in the next 6 months to the next year? What do you think the bigger trends are going to be or how it's going to start to shift?
I think the one of the biggest shifts we're going to see is in what they call agentic AI or AI agents.
Yeah.
And for those listening, what are we talking about? Right now, we pretty much have to go to AI and give it tasks and tell it what it'll do, and it's great at doing that. What it's not so great at, and it's getting better literally by the week,
Yeah.
but it's not so great is I give it a goal or objective, and then I let it figure out how to solve that and what it needs to do that. Agentic AI does just that, or agents do that. It has that logic capability built in. So when I go, I need to write a blog post about X, maybe my AI prompting framework. It doesn't just try to write one and guess it all. It says, okay, the first thing I need to do is I need to understand your prompting framework. The second thing I need to do is understand your audience, and it literally will create a task list. There's a tool called Manus that does this now. It's very early, but it'll literally create a task list. And then once the task list is done, it goes back and starts executing on the tasks. And I think that's one of the biggest areas we're going to see changes in. It's not going to, a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to mean prompting is irrelevant. No, prompting is going to probably be even more relevant,
Yeah.
but it's going to allow us to get better things done. And what's going to change is instead of oh, AI solved this for me in 2 minutes, it's now going to take, well, it would have taken me 4 days to put that together, and AI did it in 2 hours. And I did it in 2 minutes because going to be able to give it an objective. It's going to have maybe access to your Google Drive and things like that. So it's going to be able to find the stuff it needs. So when I need to put that presentation together for that speech in November,
Yeah.
all I need to do is go, I need to get this ready. And here's access to my drive. Here's my audience. It's going to know past presentations and it can literally look at all of that and then create something new. Something again would take me hours. And even if it takes it hours, although chances are it won't, it didn't take me hours because it was essentially working in the background, taking care of that for me.
Yeah, I love that. So, clearly it's going to be more proactive on your behalf. Do you see
Mhm.
any issues with that? Or do you see, I mean, people always want to talk about AI is going to take over. And I think when we start talking about the agents, that's going to fuel that narrative even more, where they're
It
going to
is.
be so intelligent, so proactive that they're going to literally just start doing things without you even asking, like trying to get that far ahead, where it's almost anticipating.
Yeah, I mean, AI can only do what it's programmed to do, and I think we're a long ways away from exceeding that. I know people love to say, "My AI lies to me." No, to lie means it made a decision to tell you something that wasn't true. It may have told you something untrue, but that's because it was programmed with the wrong information. It didn't decide and go, I'm going to lie to Jonathan today. It's not doing that. It's responding to programming. So we love to, because it makes us feel better and we understand it, we love to attribute human characteristics to technology. The reality is that's just not the truth. And I think we're a long, long way from that.
Okay, we like hearing that. And I think you said a key thing, programmed. I think that's what people have to remember. It still has to be programmed. It still
Yeah,
has to
absolutely.
be installed and prompted in order to work. And so it's not about like again, I think people forget that piece and they just think it's going to magically come alive and then take.
Yes.
But yeah, like you said, we are. far, far away from that possibility. But for now, it still is very dependent on the programming and who is
Yeah, I
behind the
mean,
scenes doing that.
we've been talking for over a half an hour, and ChatGPT's been up on my desktop, and it's not done anything in the last half hour because I haven't asked it to.
Right.
And I could let it sit there all night and all day tomorrow, and it still won't do anything unless I ask it to do so.
True.
And even then, when it responds in a way that maybe we're not familiar with, again, it's because it was programmed to do this. I had a big discussion about this at a speech I gave the other day because I made a comment, AI doesn't lie to you. And somebody took issue with that so much that they actually followed me around at the event. And they're like, I want to talk to you about that. I'm like, it's just the semantics. I said, I believe in order to lie, it needs to make a decision to tell you something that's untrue. It may have told you something untrue, but to lie, to me at least, the way I define words, it had to decide to tell you something that it knew wasn't true. And I, one, don't think it decided, and two, I don't think it knew it was untrue. It didn't, it didn't decide to do it in that fashion. And again, that's part of what the issue we see with AI across the board. We have people talking about, well, what about, AGI, which is artificial general intelligence and all that. We haven't defined that as a society yet, so we won't know, at least at this point, when we hit AGI, because it's kind of like asking, a colorblind person what color the sky is. If that's what they can't see, or a ribbon or a flower, they may describe it as they see it, but that still could be incorrect.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of that with AI where it doesn't have the right information.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I know you said you've been doing this since 20 years now, 1995. You've been at
That's
that.
when I got into the digital marketing world and I
Okay.
started playing around. AI really, I mean, when I realized, you think back when I used to rent a car from Hertz and it had GPS, that was using AI in a form.
Was.
It
Mhm.
just wasn't the way we do now. In
Yeah.
the format we have now, it really started when ChatGPT released its graphical user interface. So that was, end of 2022. Hard to believe it's already, 2.5 years ago, though.
It is and it isn't. Again, I think it's that weird time thing
Yeah,
that's happening
true.
now that we have
Yeah,
it. Because I found it in the spring of 2023 and I'm like, that was 2 years ago. And then it's like, yes, no, maybe. And
yeah,
even there was a part of me the other day, I was like digging back in the archives because why not to see what my chats look like,
sure.
a
Oh,
year
yeah.
ago and whatnot, just to compare.
Almost humorous, isn't it?
It's really fascinating. Yeah, and funny because I remember being so blown away by things then, and then it doesn't even hold anything to what is currently happening
What it's
now.
capable today. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and so I find that really fascinating. And then, I want to say I always like to ask people about the statement that's always said about AI. Like, if you don't, like, what is it? AI won't replace you, but someone that knows AI will. Like, what do you feel
Yeah. Yeah.
about that? And like, how important is it for people to really just start to get moving with AI and start to know more about it that just aren't?
Well, to me, it's not terribly dissimilar to when I started getting in the workforce. They were putting PCs on desks and replacing typewriters and adding machines and all that. And there were people that said, I'm not getting rid of my typewriter. Those people often ended up with a typewriter and a computer. But I don't know any of them that still this day, now that's 35 years ago for me, that still have a typewriter and don't have a computer because you just couldn't function that way. And I
Mm,
think that same thing is going to be happening with AI. We've got a year or two of people expecting and learning how to incorporate it. But I certainly think that by the end of 2027, if not sooner, I mean, we're already seeing it's amazing how fast it's moving ahead
yeah.
that if you want a job and you're not comfortable using AI to help you achieve the objectives of that job, you're not going to get it. Period. End of story.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, and again, we've been seeing this in history. The flip phone to the smartphone, there's
Yeah,
always kind of that resistance. And there's nothing wrong with having discernment. And there's nothing wrong with still wanting to
that's
use a
important.
typewriter, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're not saying we're taking away what you're comfortable with. We're just saying, can you lean in and
Yeah, that's a
adapt?
great way to look at it.
And look at
Yes.
it, from that perspective, because I can understand that for some people it might seem jarring to be like, oh, now you got to,
Hmm.
I've been doing it this way for so long, and now I got to do this, right? But it's like, well, how can we just get a little curious about it? Because to your point, there is what it isness to it. And
Well, it's like buying a new car. When we buy a new car, we've got to learn things that we knew how to do in the previous car that we were comfortable with and we had muscle memory for. And then we buy a new car, and even if it's the same brand and everything else, if it's newer, there's a button that's different. There's something that's changed. It just depends.
yeah,
And AI is one of those things. It's something new. It's not going away. We're going to have to learn how to deal with it because the expectation ultimately in society is going to be that you know how to deal with that as a tool. Doesn't mean that there won't be some exceptions, but that's going to be the exception and not the rule.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you. Okay. My last like meaty question for you. You mentioned AI is not sentient, doesn't have
Yep.
feelings, not real. There is a lot of conversation though around AI and consciousness and people
Oh, yeah.
starting to treat it like it is another form of God, a deity, things of that nature. What are your thoughts on that?
AI can't do anything that's not programmed to do.
Mm,
We're a long ways away from that ability. I'm not going to say we couldn't ever get there,
yeah,
but the AI, I think, is a false name for it. And I don't mean to pick that up, but it's not
I'm with you on
really
that.
artificial intelligence. It's predictive. If any, I don't even call it intelligence, but it's predictive something. And it's not really intelligence as we know it. Um, I can feed it information and it can learn from that information. But again, if I don't tell it to do something, it's not going to do it. There was an example recently, and somebody made a video, and it was very popular for a while about how an AI without any input went and filed for an LLC in Delaware or something like that. And I'm like, BS, it did not. And the person was like, what do you mean? And I'm like, okay, so first of all, somebody had to tell it to file for an LLC. Well, yeah, but that doesn't count. I said, no, then it didn't do it on its own. And I
Oh,
said, and then when it got to the point that it had to pay, maybe it analyzed where to go and it figured out where to go with search and all that. But so when it got to the payment and Delaware wanted, or whoever it was, wanted a payment, it didn't make up a credit card number, did it? Well, no, they had to give that to it. Okay, so it needed human intervention, you know? Well, yeah, but, and I'm like, there is no yeah, but when you're claiming sentience, then there is no yeah, but at that point. It's just
yeah.
different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I take that as a situation where the human started it, AI connected the dots, and then
Yep.
for it to close, the human still had to come back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm an old farm boy, so I often compare
Yeah.
it to farming. We as humans need to plant the seed. We don't need to do a lot while it's growing. AI kind of takes care of that growth part, but then we need to come back and harvest it and
Yeah.
make sure that everything's
Pruning.
good.
Yeah.
And does that save us time? Oh, yeah, it saves us a lot of time.
hmm
But it still means we were needed because if we didn't come up with the idea or the seed, nothing would have happened.
Right. So true. So true. And I think at the end of the day, yes, it is an amazing tool. It's an amazing application. There's so much good that is and will continue to come from it. I
Yeah,
want individuals to lean in with that narrative, but you're still you. You're still,
precisely.
yeah, like we're meant to be who we're meant to be, and we're not meant to lose our humanness. Nobody is asking us to. And if anything, use this as an opportunity to be more creative, to be more of yourself, to see how you could be more.
Exactly. Well, and that's one of the things that I'm excited about because I think now our authenticity is going to become that much more unique and important.
Yeah.
It's kind of like people that say, "But it's going to remove and rob us of creativity," and I'm like, I have more time and now to make room in my life to be creative than I've ever had in the 56 years I've been on Earth.
Yeah.
And it's allowing me to lean into it. Now, if I didn't want to be creative, I
Sure.
would do something else.
Yeah.
But I have a desire to, and as a result, I'm learning to do things and expanding my knowledge and creating things that I would have never been able to create before.
Yeah. Which is really cool. And I think that's going to be a really interesting piece of how our humanity evolves for sure. So
Yeah, absolutely.
love it. I love it. Any last golden nuggets of wisdom that you want to share with us or you feel is really need to know in this moment?
I think more than anything else, as people are listening in, just to remember there's nothing really to be scared of with AI. It is not evil or good. It is just a tool. And it's up to us to learn how to leverage it.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah. Treat it as a beautiful neutral resource that
Thank you.
yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that. So someone's like, all right, I like this Jonathan guy. I feel like maybe there's some synergy. Maybe I should reach out to him. Why are they reaching out to you and how are they doing it?
Real simple, just either remember my name, it's Jonathan Mast. You can go to jonathanmast.com, or if you just go, if you're watching, it's that white bearded AI guy. You can search for literally that on Google and I'll pop up. And I've got tons of free resources. My goal really simply is to help people embrace AI. I've got a few paid resources too. I got to pay the mortgage, but I've got far more free content out there. It doesn't take anything to just dip your foot in the pool and find out if it's good, if it's a good fit or not.
Awesome. Amazing. All right. Well, please, people, check it out. I will have it in the show notes for us as well. And I'm so grateful to have this conversation with you.
Well, thank you as well. It's been great. I've enjoyed it immensely. Thanks for being such an incredible host.
Yeah, of course, of course. I appreciate your insight so much. So thank you.